Hey, thanks for joining me today on the ClearBlade Technical Blog Series. My name's Aaron Alsbrook, and today we're going to talk about two-factor authentication and how we add it to our IoT solutions. The first place we always start is going to IPM and looking to see what sort of integrations are out there, and you can see we have a two-factor auth IPM waiting to be used. So let me click into that IPM real fast and take a look at what we have here. You'll see that it's got a general description and is designed to be imported directly into your IoT platform. So I'll go ahead and grab this URL because that's what we need to embed this solution. Here on my platform, you see I've got a couple systems already. In this case, since we just want to isolate this and show it directly all alone, we'll do a fresh install and add that IPM. All the assets are here inside, and we'll click Import Directly. Okay, now that the system's been imported, we need to go back and think about how are we going to set this up. There's some instructions in the actual IPM itself. We'll look and see 4 basic steps. The first is to update the Constants two-factor library. So I'll see two-factor auth, choose code, select Constants two-factor, and we can see a number of base parameters we need to set up. The first is a platform URL. Obviously, you can run the ClearBlade platform any cloud, on any or on-prem. So we'll go ahead and just put our little staging environment we have here running on the cloud. Next, we need to embed some Twilio parameters. So I'll just copy these in. I've got them saved. These will be your personal Twilio account information. And then I could change the text message, but I'm happy with what's there. So I'll save that, and that's the first step to configuring this IPM. The next thing is we need to run a code service called setup two-factor, although it looks like we're going to modify a few constants at the top. So let's once again go in and look at setup two-factor. We'll see, oh, here's 3 account passwords we're creating along with a test user phone. I'm going to leave the passwords alone because I'm going to delete this as soon as we're done, but I will give it a phone number for my personal mobile phone to receive. Now that I've applied that, I'm going to save and test this service. That actually means it's going to run it as the developer. It's now running off and actually creating these 3 users. The users have different roles. We'll talk about why we have these different roles. But ultimately, it is creating a test user that we'll use to demonstrate the actual two-factor auth here in a moment. The service was a success, and we have our 3 users created. Next thing we'll do is we'll go and look at instruction 3, and we see we need to set the run as for the auth override service to our auth override account. The ClearBlade platform lets you choose a service, and then in that service you can change what permissions it runs with. By default, it runs with the calling user, the user logged into the portal or the user at the API. But in this case, we actually want to accelerate the permissions there to a higher authority, this auth override account. We're doing this explicitly because we are going to be messing with the user permissions, looking at collections we want to keep completely private, so the outside users will never have access to the same assets that the service is running under. So we've set the run as. The last thing we'll do is we'll actually configure the auth override for the entire system. What that means is the system itself can be configured to have every authentication request go through a specific service. If I click the system settings, choose access, and now we see we have auth service, and we'll select the auth override service. That now means that every authentication request for every user will come through this bit of logic. It will have to pass information about what phase or factor it's in with regards to is it just connecting the credential versus a confirmation code, and it will implement, if you look through it, it implements the two-factor lifecycle. Interesting things you could do in here beyond what we're doing, which is just an SMS confirmation code. We could do time, we could do GPS coordinates, all sorts of interesting ways we could reject or authorize our end users. So now we've completed the entire configuration of this setup. The next thing we'll do is we'll actually go and test it with our portal. I'm just going to open this portal in an incognito window right here. I'll move it over just a little as we move through this. And what we'll see is this portal is going to test the two-factor login phase. Now, by default, ClearBlade doesn't push your system keys and secrets directly into each portal. What we have instead, though, is you can actually inject them, and you could override this and hard code them. It's certainly secure to do that, especially in a case where you're doing two-factor auth. So if I go ahead and bring both of these over, we can see I've got that base set up, and then I'll actually just use our test account, test@Clearblade, and then password was the password, and I'll hit submit. And now we notice that we got a confirmation code. So my phone has just received a brand new message, and I'll take a screenshot and share that in the video. But the code is 8704, 8704. So now we'll do 8704, but before I confirm it, let's just look at what's happening underneath. I can actually go and see we have a collection of two-factor auth tokens. And in here we notice that our latest auth token is, which is just from today, 8704. So it's now actually waiting and pending the actual success of the confirmation code before granting the final auth token. So if I go back to the portal and I type 8704 and submit, it's now sent back that 8704 confirmation code and the unique, guaranteed unique router or factor ID that kind of binds those things together and ultimately grants back the portal the confirmation code. So with just these few steps, we've taken our existing IoT system that had kind of a username and password OAuth model and implemented a very standard and common model for how you would do two-factor authentication into a portal or into any apps or SDKs you might be using.